Mr. DIY here. What are we getting into today? We have a automated irrigation system. The flower beds outside in front of our house need watering because of the types of plants that they require, and so sometimes we forget to water them, and we have had plants die in the past. I have now set up a drip line irrigation system out there with water coming from our rain collection system. I will post videos on that later so you see how I did that. But for the meantime, we needed a way to automate this. And there is like Rainbird or some of those other companies, lawn companies, they offer automated scheduling systems. Those things can cost somewhere around, I don't know, hundreds of dollars. And so I decided to give it the shot of me creating something to automate this. So what we're going to do here, from my rain collection system, my rain barrels, I have a standard garden hose coming out into the that reduces down to 1/4 inch drip line irrigation system. Right now, with the gravity of the flow, I am able to water some of the plants very, very slowly, but some of the plants that are, either hanging on the front porch or are in flower pots, there isn't enough gravity there or a head to raise the water, those extra feet. So I'll probably need about an additional 3 foot of head for the pots, and then I probably need about 6 feet of head for the hanging plants. So this little pump right here, I got off of Amazon. It's a little 12 volt pump. It's low pressure. Water comes in here, water comes out. And so this is what we're going to use. Like I said, it's a drip line irrigation system, so there's no need for high pressure. This is more than enough. But we've got to have a good way to sort of automate this. So the idea that I came up with is we have 2 main mechanisms here, right? So we have a 12 volt pump, as I said, low pressure. This is actually called a solar circulation pump. I think it's made for like solar water heating systems. So it's actually 2.1 gallons per minute. Is your max flow rate, and then your max head here is 9.8 feet. So it's more than enough for what I need. Then we have an electrically actuated valve, normally closed, and when you supply it 12 volt DC, it will open, stay in the open position. So the idea here is to tie both of these together, and theoretically, when the valve opens, the pump will turn on, or they'll do it at the same time. Not when the valve opens or the pump. The pump will turn on and the valve will open at the same time. And so on the rain collection side, so if this is actually supposed to be, you see the screen here. So the way it's supposed to be set up is we have water coming in from the rain collection system. As I said, I had a standard 3/4 inch garden hose, which should fit this 3/4 line, this 3/4 fitting here. Then this is going to feed into the pump, and then the pump is going to go out to the drip lines. We're going to hook this up, or we're going to provide power to this using a 12 volt power supply. This is enough. Make sure that if you're going to do this, you get one that's going to be powerful enough. This is a 5 amp, which should be more than enough for my pump and my actuator here, my valve, my solenoid valve. And so I'm going to tie both of these together into the 12 volt output of this power supply. Now the input, the power input to the power supply, remember I said this was going to be a smart setup. So what am I using here? The idea was to just use a standard smart plug, right? So whenever we don't use Alexa, we use the Google Home. So whenever we ask Google to water the plants, it should turn this bad boy on, therefore turning the pump and opening the solenoid valve. All of this is going to be, of course, all of this is going to be encased in this thing that this electrical box that I got from the supply store, the hardware store. And so, just to give you a rough idea of how this is going to go together, let's go ahead and put this together. I actually had taken both of these items to the hardware store with me, and rather than me search for ages on how to put this together, I sort of just handed it off to the guy and asked him to put something together for me. So let's see if this works out. Actually, so it should be pretty straightforward. As you can see, there we go. So it looks like, oh. And so some of these will require, I'm just gonna leave it on there. Some of these will require some, of course, just based on what the hardware store guy gave me, these will require some primer and of course some cement. This is just PVC piping. All this is low pressure, so I'm not concerned with leaking. I will, use some Teflon tape to make sure that, I get a nice seal, because I'm almost positive these are completely not the right thread. And if there's any expert plumbers out there, feel free to chime in and tell me what is needed. I mean, all of that, when I got this, all I said was 3/4, so that's kind of what we rolled with. Like I said, it's low pressure, so it shouldn't be a, crazy, shouldn't leak. And if it does, it's going to be very, very minimal compared. And I might, at that point, what do we have? We have I guess Flex Seal now. So some of these are actually kind of tough to start. I think these are cheap Chinese parts. Nothing against Chinese made. It's just a lot of the times it isn't proper. So actually you can kind of tell this is a little crooked. So I'll probably have to come over here and just re-clean these threads in order for it to go on clean. This is just for demonstration purposes, so you see exactly what I'm gonna sort of end up with. Because what's gonna happen is, while I do this, I'm gonna have to cut the phone off. Okay, and then we have, they wouldn't make a 1/2 inch to 3/4 adapter. I am not sure, but again, this is what the guy at the hardware store put together for me. Oh, okay, yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. There it is. All right, so there it is. Remember I said that water comes in through here, and so I wanted both the entrance and the exit hose to come in at the same side. So we have, you might be asking what's the reason for this coupler here. So I have a 3/4 hose coming in, and usually the end of the hose is always going to be a male. So male hose goes into here. We are now feeding water into the pump, and then we have water out. And so I actually have in my irrigation system, I have a Y splitter because I got 2 different sections of irrigation line. So I have a Y splitter here, one of those manual valve garden hose splitters. And then from there it reduces down to the 1/4 inch drip line. And so we would put the Y splitter directly on here and drip line and hose straight out. These two will be tied together into this power supply, right? And again, it will turn on with the smart plug, so that whenever, we say, Google water my plants, or, you name it, Alexa, any other, home assistant, we'll turn the smart plug on, turn the pumps. Therefore, turning the pump and opening the valve. And all of this I'm going to enclose in this nice little electrical box. It's going to be underneath our house and our crawl space, so I'm not really even concerned with water getting up in there. But this will sit just like so, and I will, you know, drill a couple holes on the top to allow these the hoses to enter to put in. And yeah, that's essentially it. I will put this together. I'm gonna shut off the video now. I will put this together and come back and show you, hopefully in full operation. Also, when I have some time, I can, if you let me know, if you want the links to these, I can post the links to the solenoid that I used and the little pump that I use off Amazon, along with the power supply and, you know, the smart plugs. There's a bunch of these different ones of these in the market. But yeah, that's basically it. Feel free to ask any questions. As I said, this is a work in progress project, full project visual video to come. Hopefully you enjoy.